Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my channel. Today we're going to talk about Nordstrom Rack. Are you like me and you like to get a deal? Well, let's talk about what is Nordstrom Rack and what you should be buying at Nordstrom Rack. So let's talk about it. If you've been to a Nordstrom Rack like me, I love Nordstrom Rack. Who doesn't like a good deal? Then you've probably figured it out. Nordstrom Rack is like the TJ Maxx of Nordstrom, and that's exactly what it is. So all of the Nordstroms, what they do when their items hit a certain price point at a certain cent mark, I'm trying not to say percent because it's not a percent, it's a cent mark. So if an item gets rang up at $11.97, we know that that item is supposed to go over to the Rack store. Now every Sunday, employees at Nordstrom Rack will get to work a little bit early usually. I know I did, and I would go in and I would scan items to see if they had hit the 97-cent mark. Once items hit the 97-cent mark, whether it was $11.97, $100.97, $55.97, I knew that those items went to the Nordstrom Rack because of the 97-cent mark. So all of those items will get back inventoried and sent over to the rack. And a lot of times you'll notice that if there's a Nordstrom close by, that there's probably a rack even closer. So not to say that all the items that go from your flagship store will go to that Nordstrom rack, but some of them will and some of them won't. So don't try to hide anything and hope that it ends up at the rack. It usually doesn't work that way, and it's too hard to dig through the rack anyway, let's be honest. So I wanted to talk about the rack. Now, like I said, all of the items that hit clearance at the Nordstrom flagship store will eventually go over to the rack store. And that's great. So it all just gets blended at the rack. No. You can tell if it's come from a flagship store if you see the red clearance sign in Nordstrom Rack. That's how you know that that is a Nordstrom flagship store item. All of the items that get sent from the flagship store will be on the clearance racks at the Nordstrom Rack. Now you're probably wondering, well, what about these items that I see that aren't on the clearance rack over here? Now, not all of the items are going to end up on the clearance rack, but a lot of them will. But Nordstrom also has its own independent brands. So like Z by Zella. That is a Nordstrom Rack exclusive brand. The Nordstrom store itself has Zella, and that is for the flagship store. Now Z by Zella is only sold at Rack stores, and that's because it falls into the Rack store price frame. Most of the things that you will buy at the Rack will fall under the 30 to 70% savings markage for buying items. So that's how we know at the Nordstrom flagship store that things are supposed to go to the rack. Now, a lot of you might be asking this question, especially with anniversary coming up, and I can't blame you. Well, why not just wait till everything goes to the rack? Not everything's going to end up at the rack. So with the anniversary sale, some things like Zella live-in leggings or like Tory bras or like a halogen basic or maybe a Kate Spade basic, something that they keep year-round in their store, they won't end up at the rack after anniversary. They'll keep them, they'll just change the price, and you'll have missed out on a deal. Now, if you can't afford it, definitely don't buy it, but if you're gonna buy it at any point, you might as well buy it on sale, right? I mean, that's how I justify impulse buying during anniversary, don't we all? Anyway, so yeah, that's the best time, I said before in my other videos, to shop is anniversary. And if you want to hold out and hope that things go to rack, then cross your fingers, but not everything's ending up at the rack, unfortunately. And what does is it's for us to see, wait and see, right? So yeah. The other thing about Nordstrom is, like I said, they have a lot of their own brands like Halogen, Chelsea 28, BP, which is Nordstrom's junior brand, Calzone, Treasure and Bond. All of these are Nordstrom brands, and so a lot of the times the rack stores will get lower end items or cheaper price point items in these brands and sell them in their store, or they'll get a Jeans by Paige, or they'll get Joe's Jeans or items like this, and they'll get the ones that are being discontinued or say they have a style they're no longer carrying. So one example would be, I scored these at Nordstrom Rack like forever ago. And if you're familiar with Tory Burch, these are the Tory Revas. Well, Tory Burch was discontinuing the Revas in hopes to replace it with the Miller, the Mini Miller. And so, or sorry, it's not Mini Miller. It is the, I can't even remember what these are. This is their travel minis. Sorry, it's not their Mini Miller. So this is the difference. You can see there's really not a whole lot of difference. I can tell you from wearing these that there is a huge difference, and there's a reason they got rid of the Revas. I personally never had a problem with these shoes, but a lot of people were complaining about the comfort. I have flat feet, so they never bothered me, and it only worked out as a benefit for me. But their new minis are super comfortable, and I personally love them. Now, I didn't get these on sale, so yeah. Now, these I did, and the only reason I bought the minis is because I fell in love with the Revas, and I've wore these till they have holes in the bottom of them. The other one is a lot worse, and I honestly couldn't have even paid to have them resold. I've put shoe polish on these till I don't think they can be polished anymore. But yeah, these are great shoes, and I got them for $60. They are normally $225. But the main point of this is Tory Burch decided they're no longer going to carry the Revas, and they replaced it with the Mini Traveler. So with that, I kind of lucked out. I saw these at the rack. I got them for $60, and as a result, I became a Tory Burch shoe buyer because I fell in love with the minis, and they are way more comfortable than these. But that's the point I'm trying to get to, is that a lot of times if items get discontinued, maybe some customers didn't like them, or maybe that styles, they've just been changing things up. They will go to the rack store, and that's because they're trying to make room in the main store for their newest model. It's like when you buy a car right before the new year, you can usually get the model before a little bit cheaper because it's the new year. Everybody wants the hottest new thing, right? Well, me, I just want a deal. So your loss is my gain, or your splurge is my newfound discount. Anyway, so yeah, those are some things about the rack. Items that are being discontinued, items that have hit their lowest price mark and they're bringing in new inventory. Things like that. That's what you want to look for. But also, like I said, the rack has their own brand of items. So a lot of things that you will see in there have never been at the flagship store. They're specific to the rack, and they're great items, and they're at a great price point. So I want to talk about what I like to buy at the rack. And one thing I already showed you was shoes. Another item I will also show you that I got from the rack are these. These are my moto boots, and some people might not be into these, but I personally love these. They look great in winter with a pair of leggings and a tunic, and these are Tommy Hilfiger. I believe I scored these for like 60 bucks. They're real leather, and I shine up the toe. I've had them for like 3 or 4 years, but honestly, I don't normally spend this amount for shoes, even though they are boots, and I've had them for a while, and they're great shoes. You can tell the sole still looks pretty good on them. And honestly, I buy all my husband's work shoes from the rack. They have some of the best, like, good quality shoes. And I'm not just talking about brand. Like, brand is great if you're all about a designer brand. And me, I like designer brands, but I like to get it at a deal. But I'm usually not really in it for the designer. I just like I know that Tory Burch a lot of times is going to have a leather shoe. Now, with that, I have some sandals from them, and they're terrible, but whatever, to each his own, you know. But for like the guy shoes, I've found, you know, Cole Haans for my husband. I mean, they're great shoes. My husband wears those shoes every single day to work. So it's worth it for us to splurge a little bit if they're going to last a little longer. And that's not the way with all designer items, but with some you can find great quality items that will last you a good amount of time. And why not get them at a discount? And you can find those at the rack. So shoes are a great thing to buy at the rack. Even kids' shoes. I bought my kids some Keens, and I don't like buying expensive shoes for kids, but my kids go through shoes so fast. I go and buy them a pair there every summer, and they last us the entire summer, if not the next year, if they can still wear them. So the other thing I've recently been buying at the rack, and I'm not a big like beauty, like I wish I could do my makeup better, you know, But I went to the Rack today. That's why I'm making this video, because I was like, oh, I love the Rack. Like, I totally forgot how much I love the Rack. Because I just shop on Amazon now. Let's be real. Anyway, so I got this today at the Rack, and it's Naked by Urban Decay, and it's like an eyeshadow palette. And this was $24.97, normally retails at $54. That is a great deal. And I don't like to spend a lot on makeup because honestly I wear a lot of e.l.f. and that's probably why. Whatever. But anyway, Urban Decay is a great brand. I've used some of their lipsticks in the past and I love them. And so I've been shopping at the Rack for makeup. You can get great deals on their makeup and like their Grace items for like beauty. You can just get really good deals. The other thing I wanted to show you, we had talked about how Nordstrom has their own brands like BP and Calzone. Now, I personally really like BP. It's the junior brand. I can't really wear their clothing as much anymore. Like, I would love to say I still fit into their clothing, but it does not shape my body like it did when I was able to wear it. So with that being said, I still like to shop BP because they have great accessories and they're pretty cheap too. So here's an example. I got this purse and the satchels were really in, or the little saddle bags were really in. And this is just a simple purse or whatever, but I got this for I think $15, and I got this one and I bought this one at the same time because I was really into this, and so I was like, well, now I have one for every outfit and I don't need a purse for the rest of the year. And I mean, 15 bucks a piece, 30 bucks. It was a great deal, and I didn't feel too bad about it because they weren't super ultra expensive, but I also felt like I was kind of, on trend or whatever without spending like what I would say is Nordstrom prices. Like, BP is a great brand to check out. Now, the other thing I really like to buy from the Rack is like ballroom dresses. So a lot of dresses will go to the Rack. I've seen DVF at the Rack. I've seen Kate Spade at the Rack. I've seen I cannot think of all the ones I've seen. Felicity and Coco, I see that there all the time. That's where I buy a lot of my, I think I got a Felicity and Coco. They're normally like $100. Like, I have a black one back here. I think I got it for like 20 bucks, like $19.97 at the Rack. So yeah, they have great deals as far as dresses, purses, and shoes. I usually never buy shoes from Nordstrom. I always buy them from the Rack. They have the best selection, and also they have great selection on men's suiting. My husband has to wear a suit every day to work, so they have great suiting there. Now, it's not to say that we buy all of our suiting from Nordstrom because that could be super expensive, and I'm not rolling in that bank area. But they do have alterations on site, and when you do suiting, you want it to look good, you want it to fit. So most Racks, the ones that are in like the big cities, are probably going to have alterations on site. The other thing you need to know about Rack is they've recently changed their return policy. Now, I know at the beginning it was 90, then it was 60, and now we're at 45 days for return policy. They still might take back your item after 45 days, but they can discount it up to 50%. So you just want to keep that in mind when shopping at the Rack. It is a lot less time for return policy. And you can't really blame them because honestly, they're trying to get rid of those items, and it is what it is. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and buy what you want. And if you don't have the money, don't buy it. Nothing is worth sacrificing your financial freedom. But there are some things that I've missed out on because I am a frugalista, as I would call myself, because I don't like to spend the money. And just some of these designers or some of these brands in general are only going to be clearance to a certain price point. And if you're going to find the lowest marking spot for that, it's probably going to be at the Rack because they've kind of come down from as much as Nordstrom's going to hold them at. So the Rack is probably the bottom line of what you're going to find these things. Nordstrom Rack's great for finding, like I said, bras and panties, which I'm a huge advocate for because I shopped, I worked in bras and panties. Jewelry, they have amazing jewelry, like halogen jewelry is really pretty there. They have if you have a large enough store, you'll have Home Goods, which I don't buy a lot of my Home Goods from Nordstrom. I go to literally Home Goods, which is a TJ Maxx affiliate. Anyway, so yeah, these are great things to look at the rack. If I were really going there to shop, I would definitely hit up shoes and accessories. That's what I really like to buy from the rack, because for me, they're honestly not worth spending a ton of money on, but I do like to have some of those things to be a little bit in the nicer category. Well, I hope you liked my video. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight of how the Nordstrom Rack works. And also keep in mind, usually Nordstrom Rack around after anniversary or after the holidays, they'll do an additional 20% off of their clearance items. And remember, those clearance items come from the Nordstrom flagship stores. So that's a great time to get great deals, an additional 20% off clearance. I mean, honestly, you can't really beat that. If you're willing to grind and hustle and search through it, you can get some great stuff from the rack. Subscribe below. Let's catch up later. Thanks for checking this out. I hope you liked it. And if you have any questions, ask me below. Again, subscribe. Talk to y'all later. Thanks and happy day.